So tonight we're talking about the decade of the operator.
Yes,
Why
we
it's
are.
so critical to have an operator. Hopefully you have looks like I'm being signed out. I wonder why I'm being signed out on Zoom. Oh, I'm still recording, so I guess that's fine. Why it's so important to have an operator, to understand what an operator is. And we have with us tonight, I think, a consummate operator here with Reilly. And we're gonna dive straight in. A little bit of a credibility slide for Black Swan Real Estate, Reilly and I here. If you've seen this before, these numbers just get a little bit bigger each time. We actually just got a $25 million deal under contract in Tacoma, Washington. So we'll be up to 175 million assets under management. We'll probably be pretty close to 200 million, I think. Fund 2 is going great. We're going to be launching that probably in conjunction with that deal in Tacoma. Fund 1 is going really well as well. Just kicked off phase 3 and phase 4 combined on our Stonehaven ground up construction project there. So we're going to kind of accelerate our timeline on that project. We're really excited to push that project forward. Although with rising costs, it'll probably be like a $50 million project by the time we get done. So that's just how new construction goes. It's the joy of the craft, I suppose. Let's take a look at Reilly. So this is the first time Reilly's joined us for
right.
our community power hour. We're honored to have him with us. Elaine is with baby Abram at home. She'll be with us here next month. But Reilly's our director of growth, Marine veteran. Did a tour in Afghanistan, a tour with the Special Operations Command. An operator in the military sense of the word. A military police officer. If you think you have a hard job, the way Reilly jokes about it. Imagine being a police officer, but all the people you police are armed and trained in the use of those arms. So certainly being skilled with your words is a critical qualification for that job. De-escalation is a completely different world in that role. But he's the director of growth for Black Swan, so he manages our leasing and acquisitions, that sort of thing. He's also the second member of our team, one of our OG team members. So we are so honored to have him here with us today. Is there anything I missed with my introduction there, Reilly?
No, that covers the majority of it here. I've had a fantastic background with some excellent leadership, and I'm very pleased to see the transition out of the military after that has landed me here with Nick and Elaine, and working with Black Swan has just been a fantastic experience to kind of continue on with this trajectory. So very happy to be here and to be with everybody this evening.
Yeah. So I can't think of a person more qualified than you to say what is an operator. So I put a little slide in there from the Matrix that jumped into my mind. Hello, operator. But I think in common culture, we think of maybe someone in the military or something of that nature. What is an operator?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the military perspective, it's an individual who has an advanced skill set beyond the basic individuals that are in the military. It is highly specialized, it's incredibly sensitive, and they're performing tasks that are above and beyond what you typically expect from traditional military forces. So for example, rather than predominantly, getting into conflict overseas, a lot of it might be your goal is to turn the local population around to be favorable to U.S. forces. Mm-hmm. And so I think that translates incredibly well into property management, because there's so many property managers, Nick, but the difficult process is finding the individuals who have the ability to speak the lingo of the local populace and let them know that we're in this together, that we are allies together, and mm-hmm. that this is not an oppositional role against one another.
Yeah. So an operator, is this a person who tends to be local or remote to the situation that they're dealing with?
So these are always people that are going to be, the effective boots on the ground, so mm-hmm. to speak. They're in constant communication with all things that are happening. There are some individuals who have that remote role, but the operator specifically is more engaged mm-hmm. with individuals on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. So does an operator spend a lot of time in a conference room?
No, at least try to as little as possible overall. Mm-hmm. The effectiveness that really comes with becoming an operator is, being able to have those good conversations, but then also being able to stand tall and draw the line in the sand when you have to buckle down and have a difficult conversation mm-hmm. overall.
So I think a lot of people, when they think of an operator, they think of maybe a macho persona or someone who knows how to shoot a gun. That's obviously part of the job. Is that the entirety of the job?
Absolutely not. So the fascinating thing when you think about operators, and we can see the gentleman on our screen, yep, they're absolutely, this masculine persona, but a lot of it comes down to, do you have the wit, the intellect, and honestly, the empathy to work with individuals? So it becomes this really dangerous skill set where if you have to resort to, some sort of terminal communication, that's an absolute last resort. First thing that you want to go in is try to turn around and have a productive and meaningful conversation with people, because your outcomes will always be better.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's interesting. We think about, an operator, a military operator as a person who, that's maybe their first line of communication. I like how you describe that as a terminal, a terminal communication there. But that's really, it couldn't be further from the truth. And I know that was one of the things that was most appealing to me when you came into our life. Is having that skill set, that incredible elite military training in that skill set that applies so directly to so many facets of life, but certainly to real estate investment as well. There's a little bit of a preamble, because I think that Elaine and I certainly have the perception that having an operator in any deal is the most critical persona in the deal, maybe even the most critical element in the entire deal. And a lot of people maybe don't even realize that role exists. So, okay, we have a property, so we have an investment. I'm an investor, so this is how it works, right? It's like buying a stock. But when you invest in real estate, it's a living, breathing thing. And the real asset in real estate is not the property; it is the people. It's the relationship with the tenant that's paying the bills. And so you have to have someone that's operating that asset, that's managing that relationship. And there's lots of different words to describe that. So let's talk about that just a little bit here. And I want this to be an interactive evening here, so feel free to pipe in with any questions that you have as we're going through. We've got a healthy roster of attendees tonight that I'm always excited to see. So feel free to pipe in the chat with any questions. We'll make sure we answer those to the best of our ability. So Reilly, what do you think of when you think of asset management?
So when I think of the word asset management, it's an individual, like you asked, how much time do you spend in a boardroom or a meeting room? And that's somebody who is removed from the situation and might have an elevated perspective on things, but they don't have the constant contact with the individuals who are making a difference.
That's right.
They're not down on the assembly line making decisions. They're individuals who are relying on the boots on the ground, but sometimes their incentives might not always be aligned as well. So there can be some certain friction that's there.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment, because I think a lot of people actually want there to be friction between their asset manager, or maybe they themselves perceive them to, maybe you are your own asset manager. So maybe you have a single family home on the other side of the country, and you are the asset manager, and you feel a strong need to manage your manager, to manage your property manager, and you see that you have some oppositional interest. I think that's a way that it's frequently framed. Asset management, it's certainly a more white collar skill set, or a higher level skill set, a more sophisticated skill set. I think a lot of people kind of get drawn to being an asset manager from that perspective, because it seems more fancy or elite or something of that nature. Oh, I'm not a property manager, I am an asset manager. But really, you need to focus on your capital stack, whether that's equity in a deal, your personal capital, or an investor's capital, debt, whatever your capital stack looks like in that particular deal. You need to have a lot of prowess with accounting. There's more accounting in real estate as an industry than just about any other industry other than finance itself. We have far too many accountants. We actually just hired a new full-time accountant for our organization, so we're very excited about that. We just have a lot of accounting needs that go along with managing, a couple $100 million of assets. I think that asset management, the sexy thing about it is acquisitions and dispositions. You're doing these big transactions or whatever, and that's one of your most important roles. Investor relations, you get to hang out on conference calls like these and talk to people about how fun real estate is on a Zoom call. Sometimes it's a little less fun in the trenches. You need to relate to brokers if you're doing asset disposition, acquisition. So you theoretically are taking brokers out to lunch, or they're taking you out to lunch, or going skeet shooting or a booze cruise or whatever junket is bringing investors and brokers together. In the past, renovations to a property, I think, were something that were really handled by asset management. That was a very much an asset management thing, not a property management thing. Though these days, I would say that property management companies have really, seen that opportunity for that line of business, and there are a lot more renovations that are happening at a property management level. But I would say those are some of the most core, skills or responsibilities involved with asset management. Have we missed something there?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Nick. A lot of it is, I don't mean to demean asset managers whatsoever, but some of it is showy. It's a totally different perspective where there's a little bit of a, peacocking, and that's incredibly necessary to keep the momentum going. That plays a critical role. But it definitely is not as much of the silent professional that exists in the background.
Yeah, I believe that the meek shall inherit the earth, but real estate brokers don't believe that. So we definitely have a little bit of a different persona when we're talking to brokers that are brokering $100 million transactions, making sure they understand how big of a deal we are or whatever. But yeah, I would agree completely with you there, Reilly. Let's contrast that with property management. So what kind of pops into your mind when you think of property management?
The first thing that comes to mind is always going to be the harder conversations. It's a really good umbrella term. A property manager has to be a jack of all trades. You need to have the ability to, establish is what we're doing for our marketing going to be working here? Are we setting the price? Are we competitive with the rest of the market? Are we too low? And then ultimately getting on these phone calls, screening all of your applicants, placing them inside the property, ensuring they have a phenomenal experience, and then taking care and nurturing that relationship. So if there's a maintenance need, if someone, God forbid, we went through COVID altogether, we had a lot of individuals that, were kind of on the precipice sometimes who needed assistance, and they trusted us enough to reach out and say, hey, what do I need to do in this situation? And fortunately, we have such a skilled team who's gone through all the doctrine that we know the steps that we can lay out and serve people in that manner to make sure that, again, this is a great reminder. We're all allies. We're all on the same side. We all are achieving the same outcome together.
Absolutely. So, gosh, I do have a recording of that. That was pretty good, man.
Thank you.
I think that's property management at its apex. I think there are probably a lot of property managers out there that miss the boat though, and they don't see it that way. They see their number one objective is to generate fee income, because it's kind of a race to the bottom on your management fee for most property management companies. They need to generate fees to kind of stay alive. It's a low margin business, and they don't realize that everyone's incentives can be aligned. The investor, the tenant, the property management company, the asset manager, all those incentives can easily be aligned if you just have the appropriate mindset. And so they're really kind of locked into a scarcity mindset where they're struggling to collect rents in COVID, or they're struggling to collect, there's like a big capital expense or something like that, and they're having trouble collecting that from the investor to keep the property going. We were interviewing someone, and they said that in order to have an expense for their property over $200, they had to get approval from the owner of the property. And the owner would sometimes insist on like making the repair themselves. So
that's frightening.
Try to imagine what that relationship looks like. You're talking to the tenant and your water heater goes out, and you're like, okay, yeah, we need a new water heater. So you have to pay the plumber to come, try to fix it and fail to fix it. And then you have to, wait a week for the owner to come out and replace their own water heater. And then, there's no permit on that water heater. So I'm not sure, unless your owner's a licensed plumber or something like that. There's no ownership that's permitted to the property manager. And so they get locked into this really awful scarcity mentality. Concretely, property management, they're doing leasing, maintenance, managing things like utilities. Y'all have no idea what it looks like to try to maintain utilities on 500 or 1,000 units. It's an overwhelming amount of snail mail. Rent collections and evictions, I think, are kind of maybe leasing, rent collections, and evictions are the three reasons why I think most people feel like they need a property manager. Again, if they're in kind of a scarcity mentality anyway, they maybe feel a little bit intimidated by that leasing and showing and contract process for leasing. And then in terms of rent collections, evictions, well, that's just yucky. Like, no,
It is.
if I have to pay 25% management fee so that I don't ever have to have a rent collection call, or God forbid do an eviction, then that's what I have to pay to, to not have to deal with that. Tenant relations, I think, is actually maybe a little bit of an elevated term. A lot of property management companies, I think they almost have a policeman-like mentality, which is ironic that you're a military policeman, but I think somehow that gives you the exact mindset we need. It's a different kind of mindset for sure. And then I think most people think of property management as ultimately micromanagement of the asset, really managing day-to-day operations to keep the owner out of the operation. And I think that that's all accurate, but I think that it can lead to some, kind of stymied outcomes or some suboptimal outcomes in a lot of ways. So again, feel free to chime in with Chad if you have any thoughts to share on any of that, and questions about anything here. So there's two ways to kind of approach this when you're looking at operations, when you're looking at asset management and property management. How do you think most people probably see that relationship between the asset manager and the property manager?
It's oppositional for sure, right? You think that if you can continue to just get the squeeze and get 10 more cents out of it, then it makes a lot of sense as an asset manager to really squeeze that property manager.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, the property manager probably wants to have a few choice words for the asset manager because they're not on the ground, observing everything there. So I think consistently for the way a lot of organizations are structured, it's 100% of this head to head. It's combative.
Yeah. So, if I'm an asset manager, if I own a single family home, or I'm an asset manager for an apartment building, I'm going to call up my local property management companies and say, hey, what's your management rate? And this person says 8%, and this person says 6%, and this person says 4%. Oh, well, obviously we're going to go with the 4% operation, right? Because it doesn't matter who your property manager is, you're going to get the same rents no matter what, right? And you're going to run the same expenses no matter what, right? So you just want to get, like Spirit Airlines, that's the same thing as Virgin.
Of course. Yep.
It's the same plane, it's the same pilot, right? You have a qualitatively different experience and also a quantitatively different experience. And then likewise, that property manager, they know they have to quote a 4% management fee, management rate. So whatever they can do to recover that revenue that they need to actually run their business, they're going to do. So whatever, so for example, our property management company, we don't have an admin fee. So almost every property management company, they charge their tenant. What do you think market standard is in our market for an admin fee right now?
Oh, hundreds of dollars.
Probably
We've seen
several hundred.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's going to be like a non-refundable pet admin fee on a per pet basis to move in a pet. And all these things become barriers that ultimately lower your net rental rate, right? This is just kind of, robbing Peter to pay Paul, but the management company can collect the fee, but pet rent goes to the property owner. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game. And then the asset manager is scrutinizing financials to see, okay, how is my property management company stealing money from me, so to speak? And we've even seen financials where the asset manager will insist that every single line item expense goes through the books for the property. So, and then is charged back to the property management company so that there can be perfect visibility on all of those expenses. There's so much distrust between the asset manager and the property manager. And we've even seen asset managers who brag about how they hold their feet, the property manager's feet to the fire, and we're on a call with them every week to make sure that they're not letting rent slip and there's no expenses that shouldn't be there, that sort of thing. We don't think it has to be that way. We think there is a better way, and I think we practice that with vertical integration. So how would you describe the Black Swan way?
Well, first, Black Swan, it's all on the same team. From the investor level down through all of our tenants, we all want the exact same outcome. The responsibility that I have as a property manager is to
what is that outcome? Because I think that maybe sounds a little bit crazy that the investors would want the same thing as the tenants. I thought the tenants were smelly and the people we need to keep in line, and the investors were these special people. We need to keep them happy no matter what. How could those interests possibly be the same?
So the individuals who are our typical demographic want safe housing that's nice, typically higher quality than a lot of the market there. And ultimately, they're willing to pay that premium, one, not only for the quote unquote product that we have, but for the property management experience.
Mhm.
And by being able to provide that for them and just to see, exceptional rents that come in monthly, we're able to return that and pay out to our investors. So there's perfect alignment there.
Mhm.
We want a simple transition to help support both sides of the fence. And I think we do a pretty darn good job at that at the end of the day.
And we're probably biased in that assessment, of
At
course.
100%.
Yeah. And then, doesn't it cost more if we have all these sunshine and rainbows outcomes?
No, it doesn't. I'll allow you to kind of speak about, what that looks like as an investor with Black Swan. But the number one thing that our organization values and why our tenants, I think, really like working with us is because of the transparency that we provide.
Mhm.
When I'm at a showing with an individual and I tell you what the price of the home is, I'm not going to come in afterwards. I'm not going to beat you up with a $300 fee and tell you if you have another animal that's coming in with you, well, that's another non-refundable $500 deposit. And it's like when you buy a car, right? You look at the $25,000 sticker price on the window, but the time you're out the door, you're at $32,000. It doesn't matter if that was a good value for the car. It feels gross and it feels like somebody got the better of you at the end of the day. It's a negative feeling.
And the funny thing is, like, this is your start to your relationship with this tenant, right?
Yeah.
So now you've gotten the better of them potentially with a really opaque kind of revenue model and kind of stuck them with every fee you could possibly get to get as much revenue on the front end of that tenant relationship as possible. What's that tenant going to remember when it comes time to renew their lease? Are they going to want to stick around? We get those calls a lot of, we live in this place. It's a beautiful place. The management's nice, but I just feel like they're taking advantage of me. I just feel like I don't actually know how much my rent is. It's different every month. And these fees are crazy and they weren't disclosed. And by aligning all of our interests and putting that relationship with the tenant first, everybody wins. Turnover is your number one expense. It's your number one expense. You have vacancy, you have a new leasing commission, you have inevitably lots of cleaning and maintenance. That's where 95% of your maintenance occurs in the entire life cycle. That tenant is at the turnover event. And if we can just serve that tenant and make sure that they love living there and they don't want to leave, we can reduce our per unit maintenance expense radically, just like a 75% reduction in our per unit operational expense. That's a win for the tenant because they have a landlord that they feel like actually cares about them, and that's a win for the investor because it's a higher return when you're able to reduce your expenses so dramatically. And all that again is an outcome of the fact that when you align your asset management and your property management, and you have an operator, someone running the deal that spiritually owns the deal, that is accountable for those outcomes, you don't have to have these cat and mouse car dealership kind of games with the tenant and with the owners to try to make money at it. It's just none of this is necessary. So again, it doesn't matter if you are an LP in a syndication. It doesn't matter if you own a single family home and you're looking at running or hiring a property management company rather, and you're interviewing property managers. All these concepts are the exact same. You need to think really critically about who your end customer is. Jeff Bezos says the person who is closest to the customer wins. You want to be close to your customer. You want to be thinking about how their needs are being met and what their customer experience looks like. And if that customer is served, you're going to win. That's just how it is. The other neat thing about our model is that asset management is not free. So usually your asset manager charges you like a couple of points. And the theory being if they can like get the property manager to reduce their fee, then that pays for the asset manager fee. For us, we just throw in the asset management for free, which is a kind of ridiculous business model. People frequently ask us, well, how the heck are you making money at this? Well, how fun is our job as property managers when we don't have an asset manager that we have to fight with?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's smooth. It's a lot easier. The people that you get to work with are the entire experience.
Mm-hmm.
And by having that culture, ultimately, but my job would be so much worse if we didn't have the tenants we have.
Right.
I'm so grateful for the people that are in, our properties because it makes my job worthwhile getting up and coming to see everybody each day.
Yeah. So when you're out there looking for a property manager, if that's what you're trying to do, you want to find someone who's an owner who has that exact sentiment right there. And if you do that successfully, if you find someone that you trust and trust them, you're going to have good outcomes. So Reilly, why are we talking about this so much? Why is this ownership concept? Why is the concept of having an operator for the deal so important?
Because without proper, operators that are there and individuals who genuinely care about what the outcomes are going to be, you are, folding up your money into a paper airplane and sending it out and just hoping for the best.
That's pretty good.
And that's the reality of the situation.
That is.
And a little bit of the wind blows, like the interest rate wind or the maintenance cost or the labor pool cost. And without somebody who's there to keep an eye on everything and make sure that they still like what they're doing, it can be a whirlwind.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of uncertainty that's there.
Yeah. I see a lot of investors who are like, okay, what's a hot market I can invest in right now? Where is there some sort of macroeconomic advantage? And we certainly want to look at job growth and population growth and those macroeconomic indicators. Those matter. I think that, we work in markets that are some of the most, appealing markets in the country, but ultimately we're in those places because of the people, because we have operators that we work with in those markets, like in Tacoma, where we just got a deal under contract. We've got, I think, amazing operators here in Rochester, like Reilly here. And I love your paper airplane metaphor. That's pretty good. We got a recording of this here. I might chop this up, make some snippets or something, or one of our marketing folks can hear. I would contrast that with an operator where you are hiring a fighter pilot who's going to, find a way to accomplish the mission, no matter which way the wind is blowing. So you don't need to find a hot market. You need to find a hot operator. You need to find someone who knows what they're doing. Or to say it another way, if I had a choice and I either was following this general's brilliant plan to accomplish the mission, or I got to ride shoulder to shoulder, ride shotgun with an operator who has done this 100 times before, I don't care what the plan is. I want to be with the operator who's done this before, that has a track record of success, that I know has my back, that's going to be right there with me, that's in it with me. We're in this together. Whereas if the general is sending me out on the mission and it doesn't go so good, he may live, he may make it to another fight, but I may not. I want to be aligned in the most tangible physical sense of the word with that operator. And I know everything's going to be okay. And it's not more complicated than that. It really isn't. I think that in real estate, we tend to want to look really sophisticated and fancy with pro formas and projections. And, the truth of the matter is that having a good operator is going to trump anything that you see on a pro forma. Hey, do you want to do a role play?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you could look at a spreadsheet and you could say, what's our like rent growth for this area? And, we're going to get great rents because there's high rent growth on our spreadsheet for this area. Or you could just hire a rock star operator that has amazing leasing operations that gets 20% above market rates for the rentals, which I know sounds ludicrous, but I think that's the reality of the situation. So first, you can call me and I'll be the XYZ property management company.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Ring, ring. Ring, ring. Every time. No one picks up the phone. That's 90% of the leasing calls that we make. I'm so surprised you're calling me back. We've called everyone else in this area and nobody's returned our call, or no one picks up the phone.
That sounds a little far-fetched, I know, but try calling some property management companies, not as an investor. Don't call the investor line. They answer that line. Call the tenant prospect line. You'll be shocked at how rarely they actually answer the phone. We secret shop all the time, and it's okay. So let's try this again. Okay, let's try this again.
Ring, 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 ring.
Yeah, it's a tenant calling. I guess I better get it.
Ring.
Yeah.
Hi. Is this ABC property?
Yeah. 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 Yep.
You guys have the cute house that's for rent over by the clinic. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got a lot of
On
houses, man. Which
Second
one?
Street?
That one? Yep. Okay.
It was the blue one. It had the dormers on the front.
Do you know the address, man? I got so many calls and I can't keep track of them.
I can't. I've been looking at so many. I kind of lost track.
Can you call me back when you get the address?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. If you can call back after like 10 a.m., that helps me a lot.
Okay.
Right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Sounds exaggerated, right? It sounds
not
like
from my perspective. No.
We actually had this verbatim phone call. We were interviewing someone, and we another property manager that had experience, and we called their property management company. This was word for word the call we just had like a month ago, calling another property management company. And again, if your perception, if your mindset is you're a policeman, and your job is to keep people in line, there's a perception that, providing a high level of customer service, that's just not in the job description.
Mhm.
So I almost feel kind of like I'm setting this up really poorly, but let's run through a real quick, like typical Black Swan leasing call. Let's not make it anything special or fancy, just like a typical call. And I hope, I hope you all are taking a few notes. If you're self-managing, here's what, in our opinion, what an optimal leasing phone call might look like. So,
Okay.
so you get to be the good cop, no, the good military policeman, the good leasing agent.
The good leasing agent.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right. So ring.
Okay.
Ring.
Great. Hello, this is Reilly.
Hey, Reilly, this is Nick. I'm moving to Rochester, and I am looking for a place to live. I saw you had an ad for the Nicholas Apartments. Is that you?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. Thanks for calling in here. What can I answer for you about that property?
Yeah. I don't know much about the area. I'm a resident physician, and I just found out that I matched to Mayo.
Hey,
And
congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm I'm a little nervous. I'm a little excited. And I heard on this internet forum it can be hard to find a place to live this time of year in Rochester. Is this a good place to live for resident physicians?
Absolutely. So, Nick, the first thing I want to say, you're calling at exactly the right time. It's actually funny, if you're coming in as a resident, we are locally owned and locally operated. And the owners of our company are actually both former Mayo employees. Elaine had recently retired from medicine. So
oh, wow.
We really love
like a
working
doctor owns the company?
That's exactly right.
Wow.
So we are really happy to work with people who are continuing to carry that torch. Yeah. So Nicholas, are you going to be working at the St. Mary's campus? You going to the Methodist campus?
I'm not sure. I'm going to be doing inpatient stuff. I'm a surgical resident. Do you know which campus I'll be at more?
Yeah, I'd be actually be able to find that out for you here in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, the Nicholas is fantastic. Is it just yourself that's moving, or you bring a loved one or any four-leggeds with you?
I do have a beagle. Spot the beagle. Wait, no, that's not an example. Beagles aren't spotted. It's Dalmatian. Spot the Dalmatian. Is that a problem? I know sometimes it's hard to find a place if you've got pets.
Yeah, great question. So we're incredibly pet friendly. We don't have breed restrictions. We don't have size restrictions. Nick, we do have a company policy where we have a flat $50 per month pet rent, but we don't have any of those non-refundable pet deposits. We don't have any additional fees that are on there.
Wow. Why would you do that?
Well, honestly, when our owners were relocating here from Oklahoma City, they had 3 German Shepherds, and they went through a dozen property management companies in town, and no one would rent to them because of their dogs. And we thought that was wrong.
I'm getting a little bit of that myself.
Well, I'm here to let you know that we can serve you here. So what's your move-in date look like?
June 15th would be great.
Okay. It looks like I've got a 1-bed, 1-bath that would open up there. And then in terms of monthly budget that you're trying to stay within.
Honestly, I'm not very sensitive on budget. Online, I saw it was like $1,500 a month for a 1-bed. I think that would be fine.
Perfect. And one other item as well. Did you have an opportunity to take a look at the Matterport tour?
Matterport? What? No, I didn't see that.
So our company, because we kind of operate around the Mayo Clinic here, we actually specialize in, residents and physicians that are coming in sight unseen.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, well, your time is valuable, and I know you don't always have the opportunity to fly out here. So
wait, I could like just look at the 3D tour and stuff. I wouldn't need to come out to lease it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That would actually be super helpful. My life is pretty crazy right now. I'm getting ready for a big change.
Well, we're here to simplify that for you. What's the best email address that I could send this out to?
Nick@blackswanteam.com.
I will send a Matterport over for you there. Would it be helpful for us to talk about what the application process looks like as well? Would that be valuable?
Yep.
Perfect. So if it's just you, I would need a fully completed application. It is a non-refundable $35 application fee. It's not a profit center for us. It's just what it costs us to pay our third-party vendors for a national background check, for a credit pull, and then also for an eviction check.
How does that eviction check work exactly?
That's a great question. So it goes through a couple of different agencies to ensure that nothing would be on the credit report or from other history that be filed for judgments or failing to pay rent or being removed from the property.
So, man, I really appreciate you bringing this up. I wouldn't have brought it up, but I'm a young guy, and I was late on rent at an apartment complex I lived in when I was in med school, and And then when I went to rent somewhere else, they said I had an eviction on my record. I was never evicted. I was just late on my rent. So I don't understand what happened, but that could come up in the background check.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me, Nick. You know, we're a fair housing provider. I highly encourage everybody to apply. To be transparent, you know, if there is an eviction on the record, it does sound that that would unfortunately meet our exclusionary criteria. That said, I can't tell you with any sort of certainty until I see an application in front of me. So I would highly encourage you to apply.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just submit the application right now. And, you know, if you can just tell me where I stand, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We reach back out to everybody regardless. You know, we feel that it's wrong to ghost individuals. So we'll make sure that we're in contact as soon as the application comes through.
Man, you have no idea how much I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So I'll send you a direct link to our website where you can apply right now. And then do me a favor. I've got a ton of emails in my inbox. If you can text me back after your application is completed, then I can get into my inbox, click on that, and get that processing immediately for you.
Absolutely.
So we don't slow it down.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do this right now.
Perfect. All right. I will text this to you, and I look forward to hearing from you right after you complete the application, Nick.
Man, Reilly, thank you so much.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thanks so much for your call. Appreciate your time.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So that sounds a little infomercially, but I mean, Reilly, do you think that's representative of like a common call for us?
100%. I think the only deviation is that we don't see a lot of the incoming residents with potential evictions on
I was
the
just
record.
having a little
but
fun there. Try to make it kind of interesting. But
no,
yeah.
that particularly after match day and right before we get into the high
Yeah.
string of our season here, that's the phone call. I have limited time. No one is picking up the phone. I like the product that you have. Help me.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of anxiety in that phone call too.
Yeah.
And they just want to hear that we have certainty,
Mhm.
we can take care of them, and that everything is going to be okay.
That's right. So when you're out there, you're looking for an operator. If you're looking for like a property management company in another market, I mean, this is the interview. This is it. Like, just call their leasing line and see if they answer the phone and see if they care. Do they treat the tenant like they matter? And you're going to find out immediately whether or not this is someone that you want to be operating your business. That's how you need to think about it. If you're a business owner, you need to have an operator if it's not you. And if you are the operator, lean into that, take ownership for it, and do what it takes. Whatever market rents are, I hope you can see how it wouldn't matter in the face of this kind of discrepancy in terms of the end user customer experience. We're frequently able to acquire assets and completely change the entire tenant experience. We make huge physical improvements to the property. There's frequently just huge glaring operational problems. So like we've talked about a trash problem at a property numerous times. We spent time with our whole team talking about trash at this property. The previous property management company, they plastered signs everywhere about how the tenants would be fined if they kept leaving trash out. And it was weird. It was like a really nice new building, but it smelled like trash when you walked in. And what was our solution to the problem, Reilly?
Our solution was to, one, find out what's actually happening. So we have a game camera that we had set up to see, well,
for deer.
For deer, that's right. This is a tool for hunting for those of you who are not in the know. And then one of our other property managers, Tyler, affixed it to a post so we could see, is the trash company picking it up? Do we have tenants that are actually being messy? So it wasn't about
maybe the trash company is actually the problem here. It's not messy tenants.
And that's what we ended up finding. It wasn't the tenants, which is the easy person to place the blame on, but it didn't get to the root of the problem. And now we have a solution in place that, well, we just need to make sure they're going to come pick up these yards of trash, or we need to negotiate with the new trash vendor.
We're going to get rid of the recycling, because they're not picking up the recycling. They're picking up the trash, but not the recycling for some reason, which kind of kills me to get rid of a recycling bin. But we can't get the recycling people to pick up the recycling. So there's no point in having the bin. Imagine being a tenant, and I'm sure that they were getting like email blasts from the previous management company and stuff like, you better clean up your trash and stop leaving your trash out and stuff like that. And the whole time, it was not the tenant's fault.
Yep.
And would you be willing to pay a premium for a premium level of customer service, which is going the extra mile of being maybe a little clever and setting up a game cam to monitor your trash? I suppose we're not the first people to monitor trash with a game cam, because wildlife are attracted to trash, but we're actually looking for tenants and trash men in this case. These are the sort of things that make a huge, huge, huge financial difference. This isn't something you can really capture on a pro forma, but it's absolutely massive. So if you If you don't have an operator in your deal, someone who's willing to take ownership, someone who's willing to set up a game cam and literally get dirty managing some garbage, then you have a problem. And maybe you don't have a problem today. Maybe it seems like things are going pretty well, but eventually you will have a problem. There won't be someone to step in and to take ownership of that problem and to solve that problem. Going back to our slides here for a second, I hope you enjoyed that little drama. We should do that again here in a little bit. That was kind of give us some feedback in chat if you enjoyed our little melodrama play just now. So to get the deal, it's the deal plus debt on acquisition, and we just talked about financing real estate deals. But to hold an asset, it's the deal plus management. And Reilly, what do you think is more important, to get a really low interest rate loan or to have an operator that runs the property effectively?
Effective operators in that situation. 100%.
What do you think the difference is? What's the gap?
Rates are going to be something that you're always going to run into,
Mhm.
and you're going to consistently have to find the best interest rate for the loan. There's no harm in shopping around. That's everybody is encouraged to do so, but it doesn't matter at what price or the debt that you get on a property if you don't have somebody who can deliver the results that the asset deserves and that the tenant deserves.
Mhm.
That can get expensive so much faster than paying the half a point difference
Mhm.
on your interest.
Yeah.
And that can happen and crash and burn in a matter of months if you get the wrong individual into that situation.
Yeah, that's the really crazy thing, is it's not even a, like a couple percentage point delta kind of thing, like an interest rate on a loan, which is a big deal. But, we've seen cases where you get, an owner who gets the best deal on the property, they get the best loan. Maybe they go out and do a sweat equity rehab, or they hire amazing contractors and they've got an eye for design. They do an amazing rehab. And then they get an operator, a property manager in there, and there's one train wreck tenant that just ruins it all in a matter of months. It can go downhill so frighteningly fast. And then conversely, we've seen situations. I mean, we've had clients where, maybe it was an owner occupied property. It wasn't an ideal situation, or maybe they're, going through a separation with their spouse and have some sort of personal situation, and just this deal is not set up for success in any way, shape, or form. But over time, having a skilled operator that's going to collect rents, collect a premium rent, make sure the property is being maintained, make sure the property gets a little better at each tenant turnover, eventually it becomes a successful deal. That's just the slight edge that an operator can make on the plus side, that eventually adds up to this tsunami of value. And then if you have a deal that doesn't have an operator or has a bad operator, it can get scary in a real hurry. So, a quote that I've seen floating around a little bit here in the context of the Ukraine war is that amateurs talk strategy and professionals talk logistics. What does that mean to you, Reilly?
So everybody wants to talk about how they're going to execute, how they will do something.
Mm-hmm.
The professionals understand that this thing is going to happen. It's an unstoppable force. We need to figure out how to stop this unstoppable force.
Mm-hmm.
Who is responsible for what parameters? What resources do we need? Do we have the right people in the right seats?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun to get on a Zoom call and to talk about the best strategy for real estate investment. But at the end of the day, your logistics of your deal, having an operator that cares, whether that's you or someone you hire, having local boots on the ground involvement and engagement from people who know what they're doing, that's going to trump any kind of strategy you put together. You could have the most far-fetched strategy. We're going to do inflatable homes in Antarctica. If you had, I just came up with that just now. I thought that was pretty good. It actually sounds kind of fun. I promise you that if you found a ruthless enough operator, they would make that strategy successful, no matter how far-fetched it is. Or maybe you're doing, vacation luxury rentals in a hot coastal market where people, it seems like they're printing money with their short-term luxury rentals. But if you have a bad operator, or worse, you have no operator, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have bad outcomes. And that's just how it is. And that's a lesson that Russia is learning as we speak, that the best laid plans fall victim to logistics. Or as Eisenhower said, in preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. So having an operator that knows how to pivot, to adjust, to adapt to the conditions in the field.
Yep.
That's so much more important than any kind of strategy that you could come up with from your step removed position. So why does this matter so much right now? We said that this is the decade of the operator. So let's bring this thing home. Why are we talking about this today? I think every day right now, people are calling or asking questions saying, hey, interest rates are going up, is now still a good time to invest? And Elaine and I are still investing. I don't have a single dial on my dashboard that says values are going to go down anytime soon. But it's also hard to believe that 20% year over year appreciation is sustainable in any way, shape, or form. So it's tough to say what the future holds. Elaine and I are still buying. I think it's a great time to buy. I think that if you're a buy and a hold investor, you're going to be happy that anything you buy today, if you still have it 10 years from now. We had an opportunity come across our desk recently to invest in a build for sale subdivision of residential lots. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole right this second, because I think there's a really, really escalated risk profile on that investment of developing land to build for sell. But I think that if you're doing buy and hold real estate, now is still a good time to buy. And if you sit out this cycle, how long are you going to sit out? Elaine and I have been told for the last decade, the market's at an all-time high. We're in a bubble, and we just keep investing, and we keep being glad that we didn't. We do it with really sound fundamentals. It's very likely that there's going to be some challenges ahead, though, and you're going to need a competent operator to cope with those challenges, whatever they look like. I never in a million years could have predicted a pandemic. What did our pandemic response look like, Reilly?
Our pandemic response was interesting. We all put our boots on and had to lace them up incredibly tight. We went through the anticipation, right? The planning, the logistics. What if half of our portfolio can't pay rent?
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking was going to happen.
And that happened to so many other property management companies.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we were incredibly protected on the back end of everything here, because we maintained a 95% rent collection, because we had an operator who had, exceptional tenant discernment on the front end, and things work out. We couldn't even predicted that what we're doing would provide us this shelter in the midst of a pandemic. The other half of that too was we, like you always like to say, the Stoic philosophy of the obstacle is the way.
Absolutely.
Figuring out rent help payments for individuals was incredibly complicated. It took multiple members of our team. Our director of operations, Stephanie, did a fantastic job understanding what that system was. So the people who were genuinely affected by this did get the help that they needed, and they were able to cover their rental rates. And the beautiful thing about that is a lot of these people who we helped navigate through that program, they're fantastic tenants with us now. Yeah. They've been able to get their jobs back. They're back to full employment. We just had one renew actually at one of the first apartment buildings that we purchased, but that's the system working there, is you have individuals who are willing to understand and calculate some of the risk and just know that this is all logistics. And if we just chatted about it forever, nothing would get done.
So when you say we laced up our boots, does that mean we had to go get really aggressive with our tenants and threaten to kick them out?
The exact opposite. I think our tenants know that we're approachable. And in fact, there are some items when somebody would call us and say, hey, we're not eligible for COVID relief because of, some weird circumstance, we're unable to pay that. Well, it doesn't do us any good to get aggressive with them and say, well, you have to pay your rent or better. The conversation really looked like, I'm sorry to hear that. That's got to be difficult. It sounds like you and your family need to find something that's more affordable for you right now. If it's valuable for you, you can vacate by the end of the month and get a full security deposit back. As long as the home comes back in the same condition, it helps them out. It helps the Black Swan, ecosystem out, because our investors cannot get paid if that property has a non-paying tenant, but it gives us the opportunity to pivot in this climate and find somebody else who is able to complete that. And I think that's just kind of the circle of life through COVID is what we found.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had a lot of guesses as to what the future held, what sort of risks there should be, we should have risk adjusted returns for. Pandemic wasn't on the list, but the same fundamentals that have taken care of us in good times really saved our bacon
Yep.
in tough times. And having such phenomenal relationships with our tenants was absolutely everything. We had, towards the end, I think we got up to like 98, 99% rent collections through the pandemic,
That's
which
exactly
is just unheard of. And that's something that it doesn't fit onto a spreadsheet. It doesn't fit onto a pro forma. And having that operator, it just trumps everything. So in the coming decade, it's tough to say what the future holds. Maybe there will be stagflation or hyperinflation, or maybe there will be a spike in unemployment, or cap rate expansion, or 10% interest rates, or who knows what. But I can promise you that whatever's coming, it's not going to look that different than what's happened in the last 100 years or so. And the philosophies that have carried us to this point are probably going to carry us forward through that time. And whatever operator you're working with, or if you are the operator, the competence, the dedication, the commitment, the ownership of that operator will trump every other factor in that deal. I'm going to say that a second time, because this is the pound the table moment in tonight's get together. The commitment, the dedication, the resourcefulness, the doggedness of the operator in your deal will trump every other component of that deal. That's just how it works. This is not the stock market. This is much more like a lemonade stand than like buying a bond or a CD. And the person running the lemonade stand, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. So make sure you've got an amazing operator in your deal, whatever it is. If you don't have an operator, make sure you have one. And that's why we're calling this the decade of the operator, is because the next 10 years, it's very unlikely that they're going to look like the last 10 years in terms of the on average, it's probably been like 7 or 8% appreciation in residential real estate for the last decade. And it's probably unlikely it's going to look like that in the next decade. It's probably going to be a little more of a roller coaster ride. We're still excited to buy. We're still excited to expand and grow. And I would be much more excited to have my dollars in real estate than any other asset class with kind of the macroeconomic forces that I see. Let's say there is hyperinflation. That's a good time to own a hard asset that's indexed to inflation, that's leveraged by paper debt. Or let's say there is stagflation. If you lock in low fixed rate debt, the last period of stagflation was incredibly short, just a couple of years. So as long as you didn't have a floating rate debt instrument or a floating rate debt instrument that didn't have a cap, you were fine. The people who survived the stagflation years in real estate that were well positioned, that were conservatively poised, did very well. They just had to survive. That's all the real estate game is. It's just having a skilled operator and staying in the market. It's time in the market, not trying to time the market. Let's make a really real example out of this. So we've talked about, we had a little role play. We've talked about some concepts. Let's talk about some good old dollars and cents here. So let's say we have an 83 unit apartment building. We've got more than one 83 unit apartment building. Let's say we raised rent. We were able to increase rents by $25 per unit per month because we added value, because we took care of the trash problem instead of prosecuting our tenants that weren't actually causing any trouble. How much do you think that's worth? Go ahead and put it in chat. How much do you think that's worth if we are able to push rent $25 per month? How do you think you can quantify the value of such a thing? Feel free to throw in your thoughts. I'm gonna get out the calculator here. And this is how much we care about this. We actually run through this exact exercise with our staff as part of training. So most property management companies, they think about, basically how can we keep our expenses low, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because their management fee is so low, it's such a small component of their revenue that they aren't really incentivized to push rents. In fact, if they push rents, that might make it harder to manage their tenants. So in many ways, a lot of property management companies are incentivized to just kind of maintain a status quo and extract fee income any way they possibly can. So we will literally run through this calculation with our staff to make sure they understand how big of a deal this possibly is. So Charlene says increase of cash flow of over 2K per month, but also an increase of value of the property if it's getting appraised. We love to appraise properties. And
Yes,
why is that, Reilly?
Because that means that we have done something to increase the value of that property, and we create a leverage. I always think of, I won't put a slot machine. That's a terrible analogy, but it's nice when you get to restack.
It is kind of like pulling a slot machine.
Yeah.
So you never know quite where it's going to come in.
Right.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is we have done something good for the property. The tenants are clearly satisfied with us if they're paying an escalated rate. And now we have the opportunity to take some of the equity out and do this all over again with another property.
Yeah, we're doing a cash out refi. That's the reason we always get an appraisal, because we've done something good. We've created value, and now is the opportunity to get a return of capital or reap a reward. We're doing about $40 million of cash out refis right now of various appraisals and debt underwriting that we have in flight. We're trying to lock in as much low rate fixed rate debt as we can before rates keep bumping up here. So we've got a lot of, and it is a little bit like a slot machine because you never know exactly where the appraisal is going to come in. So it's
we're usually pretty darn
but
close.
you always come up a winner, or not always, but it's about the same as a slot machine. So that's a good metaphor. I like that. So let's say we bump rent by $25 per month. You have to multiply that by 83 units. So that's 2,000 per month, just like Charlene was saying. But then you have to multiply that by 12 months in a year, right? So that looks like a much more interesting amount of money to me.
I mean, it's more interesting for sure, but I think there's something else that we're really missing here, Nick.
Yeah. So we don't really care about cash flow that much. That's just it's not a huge metric for us. We're much more interested in equity. Cash flow will never make you wealthy. It's a defensive metric. It keeps you out of foreclosure. It allows you to make debt service payments, but cash flow is never going to make you wealthy. It's just not how real estate works. All of the wealth is in equity. So you get some equity from paying down debt, but you also get most of your equity from appreciation. That can be from organic appreciation, which we've seen a lot of in the market here lately. But our favorite appreciation is forced appreciation. So
absolutely,
on a multifamily asset that's valued on a cap rate basis. So you take a multiple of your net operating income. And so you just take all of your income, you subtract all of your expenses, and that gives you your net operating income. And then you multiply that to figure out what the property is worth. You're buying an income stream. That's how commercial real estate is valued. Now, what expenses do we need to deduct from achieving a rent bump of $25 per month?
The expenses that are on there, we don't see any additional expense with that.
Yeah, it's 100% profit.
That's right.
Think about how hard, let's say, Best Buy works to get that last couple of dollars from their customer on their way to the couch. Maybe I'm dating myself by saying Best Buy. What's a younger retail operation? Walmart or Target. They want to sell you a candy bar or an extended warranty or something like on your way out the door. They work their hearts out because they know that if they can add just a little bit of revenue at the end of that transaction, it's multiplicative to their profit. So that last $25 in rent, it's pure profit. It's where potentially all the profit is. It tends to be something of a thin margin business operating an apartment building, especially these days with pricing being where it is. So that last $25, it's absolutely everything. So we don't have to deduct any expenses whatsoever from that $25,000 per year. And so for this building in our market, it's going to be about a 5% capitalization rate, a 5 cap. So you multiply this by 20 times to figure out what the delta is to the value of the property. So we multiply that by 20. So we get a $500,000 spread in the value of the property. We paid $10 million for this property. So we put $2 million down. So if we push rents by $25 per month, we get back a quarter of our down payment in that cash out refi. That's actually exactly almost $1 what we did. We actually did a lot better than that, but the bank thought we did too well. And instead of giving us an 80% LTV, they gave us only a 65% LTV because they said they've never seen outcomes like this before, and they kind of didn't believe it. So, but they still gave us a $500,000 back 9 months after acquiring the asset. So we've recovered. We had about a 25% return of capital just within the first 9 months of this investment, and then in another 6 months we'll be able to return the rest of capital on this particular deal. This is the magic right here. This is the power of the operator. This is our whole business model in a nutshell. It's just to buy single family homes, multifamily properties, and improve their operations and force appreciation of the property until we can do a cash out refi and return capital and do it all over again. This is the power of a skilled operator right here. And so if you don't have an operator where you can say with absolute certainty that they have delivered the most value possible and they can get that last $25 per month of rent, you need to find a different operator. and you need to be able to speak with absolute certainty and security and safety and trust that you know that they're doing everything in their power to deliver as much value as they possibly can to their tenants, to drive as much revenue as possible, because that last $25, it's where all of the profit is. So if you have questions about anything here, feel free to chime in with your thoughts. This is it. If you can master this mathematical exercise, I mean, you can be a very successful investor in real estate.
Nick, this is actually a question about the cap rate. So what does the bank use to help determine the cap rate that they're going to go with? Because it seems like it'd be to their benefit to assume a higher cap rate to reduce the value. What's their maybe I'm missing something on this, but how do they decide that?
Yeah, great question. So cap rate is a little bit of a subjective thing. It's a little bit of a bogey. And you have to, so first of all, the bank doesn't determine the cap rate, the appraiser does. In the case with New 52 that I mentioned, the bank found our outcomes preposterous, so they cut back the LTV on the loan. So the appraiser said that we had created $3 million of value, in 9 months, and the bank was like, "Whoa, guys! Here, we'll give you some money, good job, but we're not going to give you it all back quite yet. Give us a few more months." So it was actually the bank that had a haircut on the LTV for the loan, and it was the appraiser that determined the property value based on a cap rate basis, and that tends to be a prevailing market phenomenon that's pretty well known by sales transactions. So when you transact a multifamily asset, as we frequently do, you get calls very quickly from analysts, so appraisers, CoStar, brokers, and they'll say, "What was the cap rate on that deal?" And everybody always wants to know what the cap rate was on that deal, because everyone's always trying to figure out where the market is going with cap rates. So I had a call with a broker last week and said, "Hey, I'm looking at this deal. Interest rates are ticking up. Where are you seeing cap rates moving right now with the deals that you have in flight in this moment?" And a broker that's in touch with the market, they can tell you exactly what it is. So it's not, it's subjective. It's a little bit opinionated, but it's something that tends to be very widely known. And so, we might say, "Oh, well, it's more like a 4.75 cap," and the appraiser might say, "Oh, it's more like a 5.25 cap." But it's very unlikely that an appraiser would say it's an 8 cap. That's very unlikely there'd be a discrepancy. You can go look at recent sales comps and see what the prevailing cap rate is in the market for that asset class.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. Feel free to chime in. Anyone else with any other questions that you may have? So let's talk about some fun situations when having an operator matters most. So in our leasing call, we had done a sight unseen, lease there. What percentage of our leases are sight unseen right now?
Right now, I'd say we're hovering around 25 to 30%.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
That number has really ticked up.
I believe it, but
especially after the acquisition of all the multifamilies that are right on the doorstep of Destination Medical Center and our downtown campus. People just need the certainty, and they don't have the time to really shop around.
Yeah. There was a question from Elaine. I think E is Elaine. So it says, "Nick, explain to everyone why we bought Zick and Raymond, et cetera, at crazy cap rates." So a great question. So we paid like, I don't know, like a 4 cap or something like that for several like 100-year-old apartment buildings. And I would say the prevailing market cap rate on an asset of that class might be more like a 7 cap or a 6 cap, somewhere in that territory. So we paid, way more than we might ordinarily otherwise pay. And the reason for that was really quite simple. So we were looking at it not based on the in-place cap rate or what the current income is, but where we could get it to. So we looked at these assets where they're really beautiful old buildings that had not been renovated in about 1 century.
Neglected would be a word I might use
there.
there.
I'm trying to use some diplomatic language, but yeah, these they could use a little bit of TLC, and they were all right next to each other. And it was kind of a dumpy block in an otherwise exceptional location in urban core, literally 1 block from the Mayo Clinic. You could walk across the street and get into the Mayo Clinic subway, go to the Healthy Living Center, which is this gym that's the most beautiful gym you've ever seen in your life. Just a phenomenal location, but there were several assets in a row that were all just kind of neglected historic buildings. And we paid prices that people would say were stupid to pay for those assets, because we knew we could go in and do huge renovations on these buildings and turn them from kind of dumpy old buildings into really classy old buildings. So ripping out, 100-year-old cabinets and putting in brand new premium cabinets and stone countertops and stainless steel appliances, and ripping out 20-year-old carpet and refinishing the 100-year-old hardwood floors, and just making these assets shine. And you're able to charge a premium for that. So these assets, what do you think our delta has been for rate on like Zick?
35 to 45%.
So you saw what happens to the building value when you're able to bump rents by $25. A very different kind of thing happens when you bump rents by 25% or 35%. And we're still discovering what the pricing should be, because the building is not fully renovated yet, right? We're rebuilding this airplane mid-flight, and then pretty soon the whole block is going to be totally different. So the culture of that area is going to be totally different. And so we don't really underwrite a lot of our deals on a cap rate basis from that perspective. We have to be thinking about cap rate really critically to make sure that we're able to refinance and return capital. But in this case, we look at these deals and we almost don't have to do an analysis on it, because qualitatively, we know that we are skilled operators that have the opportunity to bring massive value to these assets. There's not really any other operators in our area that have the capacity or will, frankly, to reimagine an asset like this. I mean, it is no easy task. So Sawyer is our construction manager, our in-house construction manager. He is managing, no joke, 50 job sites, 50 unit renovations. We have 9 down units in one building alone right now. So he is rebuilding 50 airplanes mid-flight at the same time, trying to get them to stay in formation. And it takes an incredible amount of willpower to make it happen and to not have things fall apart. But when you get to the other side, the returns are off the charts. I mean, who cares about the financial returns, which are ridiculous? But like, I love, like, at least once a week, I will go drive that block and see like construction dumpster after construction dumpster after construction dumpster, where we're renovating the entire block. And just, it gives me a warm feeling in my heart that we are making a huge impact on our community, that we're changing. I mean, some of these buildings, they were buildings that did not have a great reputation. And we've had to really change the culture of those buildings and make sure those tenants know that there's a new sheriff in town. And we're not going to tolerate, some of the things that were happening in those buildings before we took over. And when we're done, it's not going to look anything like what it looked like before.
It's like taking off from Nebraska and then suddenly you land in Oahu.
Yes.
Just a big night and day difference.
Yes. So yeah, that's why our cap rate is not always a critical consideration for us. Another thing to think about, without getting too deep into the weeds, is the way I find a lot of brokers will price a deal is they'll look at a prevailing LTV. So let's say most operators, most people are buying deals at a 75% LTV and a 5% interest rate. In order to qualify for debt, they need to hit a 1.2 debt service coverage ratio. So they back into what a monthly payment would look like at that maxed out debt service coverage ratio, and that's how they get a price. I can spend a long time kind of digging into what I just said. Maybe I was speaking Greek to you just now, but basically they calculate what's the biggest loan payment that someone can be allowed to make. The bank is going to allow them to make, and they baculate their way into a purchase price based on that number. It's a very interesting thing. It's kind of an absurd way to calculate the value of the building, but I mean, that's kind of how like cars work. So cars depreciate at a rate equivalent to the amortization of their loan, because people won't trade in their car and pay money to trade it in. So they're going to trade in their car at whatever they owe on the loan, which is completely absurd. Like, why would a car go down in value at X percent? Just, that's how quickly the loan amortizes, And so why would someone pay X number of dollars for an apartment building? Because that's the most that the bank will let them pay for it. And so that tends to be something of a market price. Just a fun dynamic there.
Hey, Nick, quick question. I don't want to get
yeah.
too far off the track here. Just thinking about the cap rates. In a low cap rate environment, it seems like it is actually the most beneficial to do value add. Am I understanding that correctly? Because a low cap rate
Dead
means
on, Ryan. Yeah.
because
A
on the
lot of
flip side,
people-
you can really get a huge equity out of it.
Yeah. So you are dead on, man. That's a really deep insight that you have there. So most people are wanting to get into high cap rate markets. Most people are wanting to get into markets that cash flow better. So if you can buy a building at like a 7 cap instead of a 5 cap, and you can get an equivalent loan on them, which you can't, by the way, you get better debt on better quality assets. But let's say you got the same debt, you're going to get way more cash flow on that property that you're buying in a 7 cap versus a 5 cap. But how do we feel about cash flow?
Cash flow is good defense, but it doesn't make you wealthy.
Yeah.
Paying for a 7 cap might look good month to month, but the appreciation is so muted that you're not going to have those great long-term gains, which is really what we want to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're going to get like 30 or 40% less appreciation with that higher cap rate building because you have a lower multiple of whatever you increase your net operating income by. So I'm not excited about getting into markets that are a 2 cap like Dallas or Seattle or New York. Because I don't know, that's just crazy town. But I do really love markets where, they're a 5 to a 6 cap. So they're really desirable areas that aren't, like a rural Georgia, Nebraska, 10 cap kind of market. They afford the best opportunities, I think, for appreciation upside while having a safe amount of cash flow. Yeah. So that got really deep. I hope everyone followed that. And I hope that made sense to everyone there. I have another note from Elaine here. I think this is Elaine. Explain to everyone why we don't like a rentometer for single family homes. So every day someone says, hey, here's this deal I'm looking at. Here's a single family home in a market that I don't know. Rentometer says the rent is XYZ. Is it a good deal? What do you think about that, Reilly?
So I'm going to assume rentometer is for rentals the same way Zillow acts.
That's correct. It's a
single
rent
family
estimate.
homes.
Yeah.
Who knows if the information is accurate? And it doesn't take into account the quality of the home. It doesn't take into account the efficiency of the organization that's operating it, nor the tenant demographic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it is a macro piece of information, and the micro efficiencies are what really allow you to set your price and see results.
Yeah. It all depends on the operator. Your rental rate is not a function of the asset. It's a function of the tenant and the operator. Absolutely. All right. So we were talking about sight unseen relocation is a time when an operator matters. What about cleaning?
Oh man, we've had situations where everybody's got a little bit different standard that they're used to. We professionally clean all of our homes at turnover, which was the case for one of these properties here. And when the individual had this, 30-hour drive that they powered through from Florida to arrive early in the morning, we met them. They had completely fallen apart because they felt that the home was not cleaned up to their standards.
Like in tears.
In tears, so frustrated and just unable to have a conversation that it was no longer important for me to be on site. And it was, why don't we talk later this afternoon after you've had some time? Right. Sometimes time.
Take a nap on this filthy floor.
Yes, that's exactly
that's been
right.
professionally cleaned, and let's talk when you've had a chance to gather your wits. We've seen people who insist that we pay for them to clean the house after we have paid to clean the house. We've seen people that insist that we pay for the cleaner that they hire. We've seen people that think that we have almost like deliberately gone through and filthied the house ourselves just to spite them. Why is this such an important thing? Why are we talking about this on a call with so many important people here?
Well, let's go back over, the cost of cleaning per unit. Let's look at the cost as an expense to the building, right?
Yep.
Rather than a $25 increase per month. If we take the aggregate and call it a $25 cleaning over the year,
that's right.
That's a $500,000 loss.
Because it's probably going to cost us in a 1-year lease. It's probably going to cost us about $25 a month if you amortize that over the life of the lease. Yeah. And what's the gap? What's $25 a month worth rent worth to us on the income side?
For 83 units, that's $500,000. in the black.
And how much is it worth to us on the expense side?
$500,000 in the red.
It's
That
the
is
exact same thing.
Terrible check to have to write.
It is.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally, it's a $500,000 cost if you have an unskilled operator that doesn't know how to keep your properties clean and then convince people that they've been cleaned after they've cleaned them.
Yep.
And then I didn't know how to put this on a slide. So we had a situation with an animal who had passed away. What was that situation?
So we buy year round. We had a property that we purchased in wintertime with snow on the ground in Minnesota, which we can have decent drifts up here from time to time. And so we bought this property with snow in the backyard. Fast forward several months when somebody is going out and doing some leaf cleanup or something in the backyard after we've moved them in, and this tenant has been there for 60 days.
Yeah.
And then we get a phone call, very concerned, very frustrated, rightly so. There's a dead dog in our backyard that has been decaying here for a long time. And how did you not see this?
Yeah.
What kind of company are you running? But they didn't understand the full situation about this was not placed there by our company.
And it still wasn't quite thawed yet. So like, do you get like a pickaxe out or something to try to
the shovels to, and
that
who
was,
does that?
and is there like a rent adjustment or something that they've been living in a house with a dead dog in the backyard this whole time, and all sorts of emotional components that we have to deal with. We had another one where someone was doing a little bit of off-roading. A friendly neighbor decided to go off-roading after visiting the bar.
That's exactly right. And they came in and they hit the fencing and they popped up onto like a big rock or
fire pit or something. Yeah.
Something of the sort. But that's what prevented the car from going inside of the basement level of this house.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and then we had to wait for the ground to thaw so
Yep.
we could make the repairs to the fence. So again, like another 60 to 90 days.
Which was
after
really
that
important to them
particular
because they had
incident.
dogs. And yep. And another situation with the garage door.
So they had just brought their brand new pickup truck. I
One of
think it was
these
a truck.
$100,000 pickups. Yeah.
And, we're calling and halfway threatening what happened, this garage door isn't working. What happens if your failed garage door falls on my brand new pickup? Who's responsible for that cost?
Mhm. Yeah.
Incredibly frustrating.
How do you set boundaries with a tenant when they're in that kind of agitated state? And like, clearly it's farcical. Yeah, the garage door is broken. Sorry, we're gonna fix it as soon as we can.
Mhm.
And you're like threatening us that you're gonna break your own truck or something like that so you can sue us. How do you establish boundaries with a tenant like that and make it clear that this is not gonna work?
Well, the first thing that you do is create a void of emotion, right? You never want to meet somebody with this upset passion, with this other range of fiery passion that just doesn't work whatsoever. So you remove the emotion. And honestly, like, it's okay to apologize for this situation. You start de-escalating somebody slowly, and it doesn't happen on a dime. It takes 20 minutes on a phone call. I'm sorry that's the case. That has to be really frustrating. I know that it probably feels like you have a lack of control in this situation right now. But ultimately, our responsibility is to make sure that you're going to be comfortable. The garage door will be something we need to fix. I certainly don't want your pickup to be damaged. Why don't we take it out and we'll keep it on the street for the time being until I can get a professional installer over there to remediate whatever this situation is. In the future, it's simpler for you, and I can actually resolve this quicker if you get into our Buildium resident portal, submit this through a maintenance ticket. I know you may have had some experiences in the past with previous landlords who have never taken care of you, and that's not our company. I hear you. I understand what the concern is. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
And sometimes even just saying that, like, it sounds like you need help.
Yeah.
That stops somebody in their tracks.
Yeah. People, they've been trained. Everyone's got a bad landlord story, and they've been trained that they need to escalate to this level of intensity to be heard. That's all anybody wants, is to be heard. And so you just have to tell them, listen, I hear you. I love you. I care about you. I want to help you. And I can't help you if you're threatening me with a lawsuit. It's crazy, but it really does happen. And of course, the dreaded frozen pipe situation, that this is a situation. We had one frozen pipe here recently that was like a $30,000 damage event. We actually turned that into a win for the investor on that deal. But how do we handle a catastrophic failure like that?
you do the exact same thing. People are at that point, they've got the anxiety, they've got a little bit of panic that's occurring right there. Clearly it can be all hands on deck at that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to go face to face to meet with those individuals, myself or another property manager.
This isn't a phone call.
No, it's resolution, side by side, making sure we get everything taken care of, get eyes on, we start capturing photographs. While all this is happening, we have individuals from our operations team in the background who's looking for another property for them. Verifying if we have a rental insurance updated within the portfolio, in the resident portal center. This is a drop everything. There could potentially be tens of thousands of dollars of expenses that are occurring right now.
In real time.
In real time. That's exactly right. And it is a consistent team effort.
Yeah. And, it goes without saying that the consequences financially in a situation like that are significant. They outweigh all of the cash flow that you're going to make on that single family home for a decade. Like just straight up, if you have one water intrusion event and you have an unskilled operator or no operator, and they do not skillfully handle that situation, it's a delta of a decade of lost return. And that's how valuable an operator is. Here's the twist to this story. So how many tenants did we have to look at to get this list of stories together?
Technically 2, because they were a married couple. This all occurred at the same property within a 60 to 90 day period.
No joke. Every single one of these situations happened to one property in 60 or 90 days. So how frazzled do you think they were by the time they got to the broken pipe?
Honestly,
I think they started laughing at some point.
Right. They were less frazzled because we'd gone through these other iterations with them where they felt heard and we took care of them. And ultimately, after we've got through the challenges, they were incredibly quiet tenants. They paid their rent on time for a full year. They reached out to us because they wanted us to represent them in their home purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that didn't happen, they had actually, I was going to say they got orders. That's the military jargon coming back. They had accepted a separate employment position with Mayo Clinic down in Jacksonville. So yeah, we took a terrible situation where I think most people would bolt or panic or meet fire with fire.
Yep.
And ultimately she ended up cutting Nick's hair at one point too.
Yeah, I went in to get a haircut and just got a random person and she saw I'm always wearing my branded apparel and she was like, "Hey, I bet you're Nick Stoggeberg." And I'm like, yeah, I'm Nick Stoggeberg. What can I do? I immediately assume their tenants will approach me somewhat often. I'm, very proud of who I am and that we own the company and everything. And she's like, "I live at 4103 19 and a half, and probably shouldn't say the address here, but I'm like, oh no." And she was like, no. It's terrible, but you've got a great team. I don't know how you find these people. I was kind of expecting to get my throat slit or something like that haircut.
Sharp barber scissors, and it was a fine haircut.
It was a pretty good haircut, actually. I was pretty happy. But I still remember she was so straight to the point of like, "I bet you're Nick Stoggeberg." I'm like, "Yeah, I live here." I'm like, "Oh no." So yeah, what's the value of an operator? It's tough to pencil into a spreadsheet. You can see how these moments, they're crucial moments where, in a typical rental property, your cash flow is a couple $100 a month. It's not that much money. And any one of these events can easily, blow away months or even years worth of cash flow. So you need to have a skilled operator, that's you or someone that you hire, that's in the deal, that has extreme ownership, that is, skillfully navigating these challenging situations to a successful outcome. So through this whole process, we had not a day of vacancy. We had not a day of unpaid rent. We had 0 rent concessions. We never gave the tenant compensation in any way whatsoever for these situations happening, which might sound a little funny, but we figured out that when you do that, it's just a slippery slope. Pretty soon they start inventing reasons why they should get a rent concession, and it doesn't actually solve the problem, right? So like how much is a drunk driver through your house worth? How much is a dead dog worth? It's tough to put a number on it, and you still haven't actually fixed the problem. In fact, it's almost an admission that you have made a mistake or you failed.
Yep.
So So we as a matter of principle, more or less refuse to give rent concessions. And instead, we pay whatever we have to pay. We do whatever it takes to make it right. And when people ask, hey, I want a rent credit, I mean, that's exactly what we tell them. We're very transparent with those people. So I think that it's easy to say that we had a delta of, $30,000 or $40,000 of total potential loss on this one property in a 60 to 90-day period, straight up. And that's the value of an operator. Or this could have gone a totally different. Okay, so here's what we can do. Let's do another little role play here.
Okay.
So let's assume that did we give them the happiness clause?
No.
Wow.
That's
dang. You're
let's
good,
lay into
man.
that.
You're good. And I'm surprised that. Okay, so we have this thing. We call it the happiness clause, and we'll just role play it, and you'll see how it works. So you'll be the tenant in this property. I shouldn't have given the address to for everyone.
Okay.
And I'll be Black Swan in this situation. So I'm going to call you. So ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, this is Nick Stoggerberg. I'm the owner of Black Swan Living Property Management. Did I catch you at a good time?
It's about time that you ended up calling me. I've been asking to speak with somebody higher up in the company, and I can't believe it's taken half the day for you to get back to me. That's unacceptable.
I really appreciate your feelings there. I hear what you're saying, and that's why I thought it was so important that I call you directly. You're going through some really crazy situations with this property, situations we haven't seen in any other property in the decade we've been doing this with hundreds of properties. And so I wanted you to get a call from the owner of the company. And I personally apologize that these things have happened. I think it would have been impossible for us to predict that any of these things would happen, but it's more than justified that you'd be upset that these have happened. And I'm here to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear you're sorry, but that's not going to fix this situation. I can't tell you the laundry list of items that have been wrong with this prop from the first day that we moved in.
I really appreciate that. And I've got that list in front of me here. I'd be happy to look at the list with you. Before we do that, I just want to share something with you. So I believe that the essence of happiness is met expectations. I believe that the essence of unhappiness is unmet expectations. Is that something that you'd agree with?
Yeah, I suppose so.
This is kind of a crazy situation. And I'm afraid that no matter what we do, it's going to be impossible for us to meet your expectations. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that myself and my husband, I don't feel safe in this home right now. What's going to happen next? I'm very disappointed with this.
I would be disappointed too. I would feel like my expectations were not met. And we believe that anytime it's not possible for us to meet someone's expectations, we call it the happiness clause. We don't ever want anyone living in one of our homes that's not happy there, that we cannot meet their expectation. And whenever that happens, we want to give you the opportunity to vacate the property. You can terminate your lease and get a full refund of your security deposit and a prorated refund of whatever rent amount is left for the month, and we'll just part ways. And understanding that this was a crazy situation, and I think that my team did their best, and I sure hope you would agree. But this is just a situation where I don't think it's going to be possible for us to meet your expectations, and we want you to find a property where you can be happy. Is that something that you'd be interested in, or do you want to work through this situation so that we can meet your expectations?
So you're kicking me out?
Great question. Absolutely not kicking you out. In fact, I would prefer it if you stayed, because me personally and everyone on my team, we are completely dedicated to meeting the expectations of all of our tenants, and we would much rather make this situation right. And we are never going to stop until we make this situation right. But I also know that if I don't give you the opportunity to leave, if that's what's right for you, you might feel like you're stuck or you're trapped there. And it's not going to be possible for us to make you happy if you feel that way. So do you want to stay or do you want to go? It's completely up to you. It's your choice. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm just giving you that option, given the unusual circumstances we're dealing with here.
Wow, I'm not really sure what to say right now. I think
So it's okay. You don't have to say anything right now. You can think on it for a day. I just want you to know that option's there.
okay. My husband and I will talk and we can chat tomorrow afternoon.
That sounds great. This is my personal cell number. You can give me a call anytime. We look forward to serving you in whatever form that looks like.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Bye. That's a happiness clause right there. And what percent of the time when we invoke the happiness clause would you say people vacate? I don't know what it is. I'm kind of curious.
15, 20%.
Yeah, it's very rare that people actually leave, but they really, really love knowing that they have the choice.
Right.
And we're not here to hold them captive. We want them to stay, but they don't have to stay. And then once they've made that choice, they own their destiny, right? They have to participate in the solution. They can't just let the garage door fall on their truck. They have to let us know that we got to fix the garage door, and explicitly calling out that all we can do is meet or not meet expectations lays bare all these feelings, right? So there can be fear and upset and disappointment and doubt and mistrust. But at the end of the day, that's all we can do is we can try to meet expectations, and we can either meet expectations or not meet expectations. And that's all there is to it. And we can control our intentions. We can try to make them happy, but it's ultimately up to them if they're going to be happy. So these calls they're always interesting calls. They're always very eye-opening calls. They're frequently kind of heartfelt. What kind of dollars are at stake here? So set aside the human dignity portion of this thing, which is of the utmost importance to us. But financially, why is it so important to be able to have a conversation like this with a tenant?
I mean, each one of these conversations, let's pretend this is, at the subject address is, roughly $2,000 a month. This is a $24,000 base conversation. Plus, if we carry any vacancy, let's say this is ultimately a $27,000 conversation that we are resolving right now.
Yep.
We're always leaning towards one position to be able to keep them and retain them. And the fascinating thing is after we make these phone calls for the 80 to 85% that choose to stay with us, they become model tenants.
They do. Yeah. Yep. They go from the squeaky wheel to the I don't know, the mascot for the building or something like that. It's really impressive. And if we fail to achieve that outcome, we're asking ourselves why. We're asking ourselves where we failed to reach these people. Again, none of these things fit on a pro forma, but these critical moments are what determine the success or failure of your investment. The people that reach out to us for help, for coaching, are frequently at these crossroads, and it hasn't gone so good. And maybe they've had a train wreck tenant that has trashed the place and done. It's not difficult for a tenant to do, $20,000 or $30,000 of damage to a property in relatively short order, and we see it all the time. And you're typically not at the liberty to really, there's limited recourse against those tenants. Like, sure, you can, get a judgment against them or whatever, but the kind of tenants that do that kind of damage to property, like you're never going to collect on that judgment. So you have to be ready to intervene, to engage, to serve, and to resolve the situation as quickly as possible for everyone. Because in a situation like this, the property owner could be losing $1,000 a day easily, and we've sadly seen it happen, before our eyes on countless occasions. So hopefully this is some fun theater or something like this to talk about the qualitative reasons why this is the decade of the operator and why these things are so important. Again, feel free to chime in with any questions you have about finding a good operator here. So how do you find a good operator? What is a good, let's say you need to go hire yourself an operator, Reilly, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for a couple of very specific things. I want somebody who's coming with, for us, without any previous property management experience because of the bar that's set so low. I want to see somebody that's coming from the service industry. Typically, they are very public facing. They know how to have difficult conversations. They can deal with people's expectations a whole lot better. And then ultimately, an individual who's not afraid to polish the badge, put on the 10-gallon hat, and become the sheriff in those moments when they need to.
Absolutely. So someone who knows how to have a crucial conversation, a confrontational conversation. It's a surprisingly easy thing to interview for. I think whenever you talk to someone in just a few minutes, you can usually get a measure of, are they the kind of person that welcomes that kind of confrontational conversation, or are they the kind of person who shrinks away from it? So you need to find someone who's happy to put on that 10-gallon hat and that badge and be the sheriff. I think that looking at track record is incredibly important. Is this someone who has done this thing before and has done it successfully? Ideally you can get a referral. So talk to this person's friends and associates, the people they have served. So if you're looking for a property manager, an asset manager, whatever it is that you're looking for here, in short order, you can typically find out if this is something this person has done before, if they've done it well with their referrals. You can meet with them virtually or in person. That's something that's really changed a lot lately with technology. You can do Zoom calls like this and meet with people. You can also do phone calls. You can do in-person visits. I find that the persona of an operator is actually once you kind of see the pattern, it's kind of easy to identify. I find that these people in some ways are almost a little bit offensive to work with, because they always want to have like complete control of the situation. They want to have a lot of engagement and ownership. They're really proud of their outcomes. Not a jerk about it, but maybe even a little too proud of it. These are the kind of people that I want to be owners in my deals. And if I'm not the owner, which like in Tacoma or our Tacoma deals, we're not the local operator there. I'm looking for those traits in our operational partner there, Daniel Casey, and he exemplifies all these things in spades. And that's what brought us there. Is he's just an absolute rock star operator that we, really wanted to be in business with. Another individual, Peter Salon, he's one of the most prolific developers in Minnesota. He took the largest property in Minnesota from bankruptcy, from conservatorship. It was a bankrupt underwear factory in a really prominent urban core location, and he converted it into like an event center, wedding venue, mixed use commercial thing. Is like the IMS building. It's a famous turnaround story. And he exemplifies all those exact same traits. I mean, I could tell story after story. So these are all the people that we want to be in business with, that we choose to be in business with. And these are the people that you need to look for in your real estate investment career. When we're hiring, Reilly just nailed the exact traits that we're looking for when we hire staff for our property management company. And so when you're hiring staff for your company, whatever your operational concern is, I mean, I hope you're looking for a skilled operator. I hope you're looking for an owner. And that's something that we think you should be looking for. Let's see here. There's a question Charlene Lohmuller had. Do you require tenants to purchase tenant insurance? You want to speak to tenant insurance, Reilly?
Absolutely. So at this point within our company, we don't require tenants to do it. We highly encourage it. We let them know that we're not carrying a policy on their behalf. And we love making referrals. Again, as we're talking about referrals, we have a fantastic agent here in town that we work with for a high quality State Farm office. But that could absolutely be something that we're changing in the future. And we're kind of in discussion with currently for the leadership of the company is that something that's going to be valuable? Will it provide us more stability? Will it afford us more protection?
Yeah, a lot of tenant insurance products are predatory, and it really makes me grimace. So again, property management companies that are kind of squeezed on margins, looking for ways to extract more fee income from tenants and investors. They'll require you to have tenant insurance in order to like move in, but maybe poorly market that requirement until like the day you move in, or it's somehow part of your onboarding process. So you sign up with their insurance product, which 99% of the cost becomes a kickback to the property management company. So we don't receive any kickbacks whatsoever from any of our providers. In the few instances where we get affiliate revenue, that goes to our charity. We just don't think it's right to get kickbacks. We don't incorporate that into our business model. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can do tenant insurance in a way that's non-predatory, that's ethical, that just creates pure value for our tenants. Because for a lot of people, like if they're a State Farm client, they can get tenant insurance for free, renter's insurance for free. It's they get like a multi-line discount for it. So they get like a really good policy, a high quality policy that's going to pay if their possessions are ever damaged or there's, burglary or whatever. And it costs them on paper like $3 a month and gives them like a $4 a month, discount or something on their insurance for their car or something. There's other insurance providers where it's, $50 a month for the exact same product, or in most cases, a much lower quality product that doesn't actually pay when that claim comes due. So, on the investor side, we see a lot of advice that says you should absolutely require your tenants to have renters insurance. When we look at the landscape, we see that as typically a predatory offering. And so we're trying to figure out a way to change the game to, can we somehow include free renters insurance in all of our rental properties? Because it is a good thing for us too, to have our tenants covered like that helps us and helps our investors in many ways. And then that's just yet another differentiating proposition about doing business with us as a renter is you get free renters insurance, whereas, down the block, that's a value that they're extracting. Why do you ask about that, Charlene?
Because I had in a duplex that I own, I had a tenant, there was a water intrusion, and that tenant did not have tenant insurance and asked me to cover the cost of their loss.
Yeah.
And
No, I have literally been there. So, in 3 different places on our lease agreement, you're required to acknowledge that we have told you that you should get renters insurance, and it's illegal to insure something you don't own. So it's illegal for us to like insure your possessions.
Mhm.
And so it was, 2 a.m, as it always is. And there's a really heavy rain. And one of our properties was having a water intrusion event, which happens sometimes. And it was really bad. There was like a couple of inches of water in the whole basement. So everything's ruined down there. All the flooring and stuff. And so I'm in their living room, and they're watching TV. Like I walk in the front door to the house, and the whole family is gathered there. They're awake in the middle of the night, and they're watching TV. And I'm like, "Hey guys, what the heck are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, hey, thanks for coming by. We're hanging out." I'm like, "Okay, why aren't you getting your stuff out of the water?" And they're like, "Well, you're going to pay for that." And I'm like, "Nope. Have you seen your lease agreement lately?" And they're like, "No, take out the lease agreement, point to it. Okay. So, you're still going to pay for it." And I'm like, "Nope." And, these are, I can't think of a way to describe it. Tenants that maybe would resort to terminal communication more quickly. And they outright tried to threaten me and physically intimidate me in their living room. And, the wife is like, "Hey, honey, fix this." And he comes over and says, "You're going to take care of this, right?" Except he's like way taller than me. Instead of the other way around, "You're going to take care of this, right?" And I just say, "Nope, that would be illegal. Are you going to help me clean this up, or am I leaving?" And that was it. And we just stared each other down for a good 5 seconds. And he finally said, "Okay, honey, we're going to clean this up." And everybody got off the sofa and started getting their stuff out of the waterlogged basement. And that's pure operator right there. That is the job of the operator. Here's this potential, it's so easy for this situation to spiral out of control. So Charlene, I don't know what your situation was, but tenants frequently, they feel like they have been disenfranchised in a certain, in that kind of situation. And so they don't want to pay rent, and they want concessions, and it could turn into a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, problem in a hurry, and just a tenant relations nightmare. And there has to be someone who's willing to stand toe to toe with that tenant and set expectations and draw a line in the sand. Let them know that you love them, you care about them, and you're going to serve them. And here is how that's going to happen. So insurance certainly helps a lot, but it also very much comes down to just having an operator who's unafraid to have that confrontational and loving conversation.
Okay, and did you still have those tenants pay rent in that situation during the cab?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's never really a rent concession concept for our organization.
Live there during the rehab?
So the neat thing is, when you don't offer a concession, you're really aggressively obligated to make the situation right. So in that particular situation, I was there. Like, I was there buying equipment and finding contractors and stuff. And I didn't leave until, I mean, back in those days, I was working a W-2 job. So I showed up there at like 2 a.m. and I worked until 8 a.m. until it was time to go to my W-2 job. And then I came back at 6 o'clock after my W-2 job and kept working there and had contractors that were there during the day when I wasn't there. And when your tenants see that level of commitment, that level of dedication, like like, of course they said, well, we get free rent, right? And I'm just like, nope, that's not how this works. And by the way, legally, that's not how this works. You have no obligation whatsoever, at least in my state, to offer any kind of rent concession. It's subjective, maintaining a property in a proper state of repair or whatever. So we went and did the appropriate drying of things and curing of things. A lot of times water intrusion problems, they don't get cured right away. So now you have a mold problem. You got to rip things out and things just kind of spiral out of control. But we literally had like 10 dehumidifiers running and fans and sump pumps and everything. And then we renovated the place. Like we put in luxury vinyl plank flooring and like we upgraded everything so that it was nicer after this disaster than when they started. And then every time they saw those new upgrades, that was a reminder not of this disaster that their landlord failed to compensate them for, but like, hey, there was like some kind of, upside benefit to it. And this is going to get pretty aggressive, but they insisted that their possessions had been destroyed, which I said was completely farce. Like we rescued everything before like mold could, come up, and tenants always believe that mold is deadly, and there's always like mold is just crazy. And I said, like, no, your possessions haven't been destroyed. And they said, yeah, yes, they have. I'm like, okay, so do you want me to dispose of your possessions as a service to provide to you? And they're like, I guess so. I'm like, okay, since these haven't been destroyed, I'm actually, this is a really nice rug. I'm going to put this in my personal home. And this chair over here, my leasing agent, I know he could use a chair in his living room. And this sectional, this is a really nice sectional. We're going to disassemble this sectional. And I've got a contractor who I know he needs it for his shop. And we furnished our properties with their junk stuff because that's our level of dedication and commitment. And I think that they stayed in, they never stepped out of line for the remainder of their tenancy, which was several years. So that's the level of commitment. That's the level of grit that you need to have. I was like, man, I really appreciate this. Like, I'm your landlord. Like, I'm way wealthier than you are, but like, this is a really nice rug. This is worth a lot of money. I really appreciate you giving me this rug. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate it.
That's really good. And I have another question. So have like the 83 unit building. When you have the 83 unit building, I mean, sometimes with my units, when it's dense with tenants, they just call and complain about each other, about parking. She took my parking spot. She's too loud. She's bringing in somebody. How do you handle those types of things where they should just be handling it themselves and has nothing to do with the building?
Yeah. Yep. So we recently had a staff meeting to document our policy on these types of situations to make sure that we're acting consistently as our company grows. Reilly, how would you answer a call for a noise complaint? You want to do a role play, or what's the best way for us to answer that question?
Either way, I mean, we could continue the melodrama if
okay
necessary.
Yeah. Okay, so Charlene, what's wrong with me? Am I noisy? Am I smelly? Smells are the worst.
Noisy, maybe doing some drugs. You can smell the weed, and taking my parking spot. Sometimes
noisy, smelly,
friends are
taking the parking spot. We could be in happiness clause territory here, Charlene. Man. All right, let's dig in. So here I am.
Okay. Ring.
Hello, this is Nick. Sorry. This is Nick.
Hey, Nick, Reilly with Black Swan Living Property Management. How are you?
Why are you calling me, man? It's like 11 in the morning.
Yeah,
I'm asleep, man.
Yeah, I only need a couple minutes of your time here, but
okay, sure.
It's important that you and I have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
So I received a couple of notifications about a few items that we need to chat about, and I want to know if you've also noticed some of the same things in the building.
What are you calling about, man? What's going on?
So we've had a few issues with noise complaints that have come from around your unit right now.
You know,
Have
it
you
is
heard
it is a
anything?
noisy building. You're right. It's frustrating how noisy this building is. There's noise all the time. Yeah, people are noisy.
Where are you hearing that from your walls?
You know, all around. You know, just all around me. There's noise. Yep.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Sounds
Yeah.
like that insulation might be too thin for you.
You know, I do wish these walls were better insulated. You should insulate the walls, man.
Yeah, one of the other reasons that I'm finding that here with the walls being thin, it's with the HVAC shared here. There's also a detection of marijuana inside of your unit, and I just want to,
Weed?
I don't really care
You're
what
calling
people
me about
do in
weed,
their.
bro?
I don't care what you do in your personal time, Nick, but I want to let you know that it's 100% illegal to use it inside of our building. It's absolutely not tolerated. And it's actually a violation of the Rochester Crime-Free Addendum and subject to
Whoa,
ground.
man. Whoa. What's going on? What do I got to do?
So here's what I need you to do. I'm needing, if there is any sort of marijuana, I don't care if you do that elsewhere. It is something that cannot occur on the grounds. You can understand how
I mean,
a lot
the
of
last
people.
the last landlord, they were totally cool about it, bro.
Yeah, I understand that, but we are a completely different property management company and we have zero tolerance for that. I need to make sure that you understand this.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to say, man.
Nick, it sounds like you've had a difficult time since we've taken over management. Would that be right?
I think so. I like playing music, and I like having a good time, man.
Yeah, I hear you. I am somebody who likes that too, but there's a problem with all the shared walls is that it impacts all the other residents. I want you to be able to find something where you can turn your music up and you're able to have more freedom. Is that something that would be important to you?
Yeah, man. I love freedom.
Perfect. So here's what I'm going to offer you, okay? And we don't
Okay.
necessarily do this with everyone,
Okay.
but if you're able to find something, it sounds like that would be in your best interest to move into that's outside of our property, and you can vacate by the end of the month. I won't impose an early termination penalty.
Whoa. Are you kicking me out, bro?
Absolutely not. But it sounds like you're not happy with the place that you're in, and it's important for me
No,
to.
I like it here. You're the one that's killing my buzz here, man.
I'm sorry. I actually get that a lot. I'm the individual who's responsible for maintaining everybody's
Are
happiness.
you like a policeman or something?
I'm a former cop, Nick, as it turns out here.
Oh man.
And another item.
Okay. You know what? I will look for another place to live. I get it, man. I hear you.
Okay.
How does this work?
That's great. So it's the 18th today. I know that probably looking sooner than May is going to provide you the most opportunity to find a different place to reside. Do you think you can find something within the next couple of days and be moved out before the end of this month? I can give you a full security deposit refund, less damages.
Whew. Okay. Sure. Yeah, I can. I'll take a look.
Okay.
I'll take a look.
The other item as well, I know that your car is parked illegally right now. If I have vehicles that are in the right spots, as a company policy, I'm obligated to tow that car.
No, don't tow my car, man.
I don't want to, but I need it not parked in that spot. So this is me doing a courtesy because I don't want you to have to pay
No,
extra money by
I
staying
don't
here,
have the
right?
money for that. I'll go move my car, man. I'll go move my car.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, it's Monday right now. I appreciate you taking the time. Let's follow up on Wednesday, talk about the plan of action. We'll keep this moving forward.
Oh, okay.
Nick, is there
Okay.
anything else occurring in the apartment right now that I need to know about?
No, man, you got it.
Okay. I appreciate your time here, and I look forward to you being able to find something that's going to be better suited for you.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Bye. So that's what that looks like, Charlene.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it can go the other way. People will
Yep.
get it instantly, like instantly. They'll maybe put up like a little bit of a fight of like, oh no, it's not me. Okay, yeah, it is me. I'm sorry. But sometimes they go to the mat and we just go straight to the happiness clause and we make it absolutely crystal clear that this behavior will not be tolerated and will never be
Yep.
tolerated.
And we have two versions of the happiness clause. The one you did with the tenant who had everything wrong was, it sounds like you're not happy.
Mhm.
Would you like to leave? This one is more of, I'm the property manager and I'm not happy, and I think that you need to leave.
That's right.
And that is a very different tone. It's not as much compassion that's there, but ultimately it's better for the individual and it's better for all the tenants that are surrounding that individual.
Yeah. Here's the crazy thing. No one wants to be the bad cop, right?
No.
It's not fun. My job as a father for my children is to make sure that they grow up in a world of accountability, that they understand that they live in a world that has rules. And if they understand the rules, they can live a happy life. A lot of these people have not had that person in their life. I'm not saying you need to be paternalistic about it or maternalistic about it. But you need to educate them that they live in a world that has rules. And if they break those rules, there will be consequences. And it's not hard to do. It's not fun, but it's not hard to do. And it just takes repetitions. Like the first time you have this conversation, it's tough, and the next 10 are a little bit easier. And then eventually it's just, I wouldn't say I look forward to it, but I see the value in it. I mean, I think sometimes we're like the only source of accountability some people have in their entire lives. We've had people where we take over a building and there's clearly, drug addiction or drug abuse that's happening in the unit or alcoholism, and we help them get, treatment. And we say, listen, you can't live here. Like we refuse to be your codependent. We refuse to let you continue to hurt yourself and other people. And when you see it for the real responsibility it is to them and to their community, it makes it very easy to make that call. And you can make that call full of love and compassion while also being very firm with them and setting those boundaries. And they get it instantly. Like it's not, it very quickly gets through, and the call gets easier very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In this drama, what do you say if this guy's future landlord calls you for a reference?
You're honest about it.
Yeah.
We receive from people transitioning to different parts of the country. I probably get, half a dozen per week. And the first thing that I look at is, one, if I know their name, it's usually not necessarily a positive thing.
Yeah.
If
Elaine knows their name, that's really bad.
then we've all been dropped what we're doing to resolve a complicated situation.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it would be a disservice to another property manager, especially if they're one of the lower bars. And I say, this guy's great, take him.
Yeah.
So you can provide the good qualities about them, right? Like, you know what? In that situation, Nick paid his rent on time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would have a noise complaint about him. There is some, suspected use of smoking, and he didn't always park in the right spot.
Yep.
But he consistently paid. He was able to maintain a lot of like maintenance items on his own. If you have the ability to set boundaries with them early on, I think you're okay. Or maybe it's a state like California or Arizona where it's legal and it's not as a difficult conversation. Like that's just an expectation that these other property managers have. But 100% transparent. If I would never lie to another property manager and allow them to inherit a problem that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's never bad to be transparent. And a lot of times when you get an inquiry, it's like a form that you get, and the questions are: did they pay the rent on time?
Mm-hmm.
Were they ever delinquent of rent? Would they be eligible to rent from you again? So it's a really kind of clear cut kind of thing. A lot of times, most of these landlords, when they're calling for referrals, they're so used to being lied to or bamboozled. I can't. Those aren't the right words, but like not communicated with in a straightforward fashion. That I think they probably rent to them just because they actually have a good feel for them. So. And we tell the tenants that as well, because the tenants do ask, hey, you're kicking me out, which we're not, but you're asking me to leave. What kind of referral can I expect? And we tell them, we're going to tell you exactly how it is. Yeah. Another great question. So happy to answer any more questions that people had. So that was our Let's Get Real segment there. A few updates. I'd be delinquent if didn't give you a few updates here. So we just got our contract on a $25 million deal in Tacoma, Washington, which we're very excited about. So this is partnering with the same operator we partnered with on Garden Court West, which has been probably our most successful deal we've ever done. And this is a deal that is just down the street from Garden Court West, probably built by the same builder in the same year, same business plan. So we're very excited to repeat that success. And then we're actually hoping to get under contract on a second $25 million opportunity that's also in the same area as Garden Court West. So it'd be a $50 million package for all those assets combined, with a third opportunity we could potentially bundle in the future as well. So just a really fun, exciting opportunity. Right now, Elaine are planning on taking baby Abram and all the kids out to Tacoma for a week of some brutal playground due diligence. We like to visit all the playgrounds around assets that we're acquiring and just talk to people and get a feel for things. But if you'd like to get involved, go to blackswanfund2.com. That will probably be the cornerstone for Fund 2. We're not 100% sure about that yet, but that's our plan. But you can go to blackswanfund2.com and pre-register for Fund 2 when it goes live. We're also working on a tech investment opportunity that'll be coming soon. We're very excited about that. We have our conference coming up July 15 to 17. So you can go to meetblackswan.com and register for that conference day. If you enjoyed these role plays, these dramas, melodramas, I think you'll love the conference because it's going to be a lot of this kind of. You can get some FaceTime with Reilly. He's just as handsome in person as he looks like on Zoom, and just a wealth of information. If you've got a tough situation you need to deal with, he'll probably give you some very good pointers for dealing with that. Is Elaine on the call? Can she do a little? Can she show baby Abram, or is she knee deep in trying to get kids to bed right now? I'm not sure. I'm looking to see if she's on. Yeah, she's online right now, so I don't know if she can hear us or not. But babe, if you're there, feel free to chime in and show off the baby. I know she has many. She's got 4 of them right now that she's wrangling. We just put a link into.
Oh, I see her there.
Oh, let me pin you. So everybody go look at the baby.
Here he is. He's sleeping. Hold on, let me pick him up. Here he is.
Yep, there's baby Abram. How old is baby Abram?
Today is what, Monday? So he's 12 days old.
He's looking good. He's starting to gain weight now, as he should. What is it? 14 grams per day?
15.
15 grams per day. Is he supposed to gain 15, or is he is gaining 15?
He gained 12 in the last. He gained
12
12 per day in the last 2 days.
Way to go, bud.
Yep.
Yep.
He's been on lots of calls with Dad already. He's worked on underwriting that $25 million deal with Dad. That's why he's so tired, because we're just working hard.
We did write an offer from the delivery room, so made sure that Mom's getting lots of attention, but couldn't help myself. That was actually a promise I made, is that I won't write an offer from the delivery room, and I couldn't fulfill that promise. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mom and baby are doing amazing. Couldn't be more grateful. And Elaine, do you think you'll be with us next month?
Oh yeah.
All right. A baby can only take you out of commission for a couple of weeks.
That's right.
Yeah. We love doing everything at scale here.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, if you have any questions for Abram, feel free to submit those. So we just put a little link into chat there of a Google form. If you want to submit some feedback on our community power hour tonight, we would absolutely love to hear your feedback. So please do submit some feedback right now. Click on that link in chat. You can go to blackswanfund2.com if you want to pre-register for Fund 2 for this Tacoma opportunity that we have coming up. And then if you want to register for our conference, baby Abram will be there, Reilly will be there, Elaine and I will be there, the whole gang will be there. It's going to be a ton of fun. We'll have childcare will be available. It's the first conference I've ever heard of where childcare is offered. That's something that's very important to us.
Oh yes.
Gonna get on a bus and go look at our assets. You get to see what a rehab looks like and see what a Class A apartment building looks like, and it's just going to be an absolute ton of fun. We hope that you join us there. So please take a minute here to submit your feedback. And that's I think that's all we've got for you here tonight.
It's good. Until the next melodrama series, we're thinking about starting a YouTube channel. I don't know.
That sounds pretty good.
The future's wide open.
Thanks so much, and we appreciate your feedback.